And when he got laid off, he didn't see it coming. He was not prepared for that conversation. And now he reaches out to me saying, I don't know what to do. You're not made to feel comfortable. You're asked questions that are out of your comfort zone. Companies want to hire people that are confident, right? And always.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our third episode. On our first episode with Liz Ryan, we learned how we can plan our career. In our second episode with Grabiner, we learned how to make our resume. So it's only natural that in this episode, I invited Melissa so we can talk with an actual recruiter and see how an interview will pan out. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure. Could you please introduce yourself for the people that don't know you?
Absolutely. And thank you all so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. Yes, my name is Melissa Grabiner. I am located in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. I have been in the human resources talent acquisition space for my entire career. I spent the last 15 years in talent acquisition, and the bulk of my experience comes from a company called Takeda Pharmaceuticals, which is a biotechnology pharmaceutical organization. I was the global director of talent acquisition for our largest business unit across the world. I had a large team of recruiters, and we hired about 3,000 employees a year. I was at that company for 18 years, and I now work at a company called One Digital, and I do talent acquisition consulting. So most of my clients are in the San Francisco, California area, and I help them with all of their talent acquisition needs, whether it's filling positions, creating processes, anything and everything talent acquisition is what I do. And I love my profession. I love being able to hire people. It's incredibly rewarding. And again, thank you for having me on.
We thank you, and we appreciate the fact that you accepted our invitation. And let's start with the questions, I'd say. And the first question is about interviews and your opinion about people that concentrate and highlight the positive qualities about themselves. How should we be on an interview? In an interview, how should we present ourselves?
Yeah, I always believe that we always have to be our own best advocate and be our biggest cheerleader. No one's going to be an advocate for us as much as we are for ourselves. And so, what I suggest to individuals is that when you are partaking in an interview, that it's very important to shine a positive light on your experience and what your skill set is and what you can bring to the table. Interviewing is a time where you have to pat yourself on the back and really explain to the organization why you would be the best fit for the position. The goal of an interview is to get hired, right? And so once you get to the interview stage, it's important that you are able to talk about all of your past accomplishments and your work experience, because the goal of an interview is to get hired. And so what I always suggest to job seekers is to make sure that they talk about all of the great contributions and achievements they've done, either in their current role or past role, to give the person interviewing you a reason to want to extend an offer. But we always, again, have to be our own best advocate and not shy away from being proud of what you've done in the past and all the great benefits that you can bring to the company.
So it is really not a good thing to expose our bad qualities.
No, I don't think so. A lot of times interviewers might say to a candidate, what are some of your developmental opportunities, or what are some things that you feel you can work on? And that's always a tricky question because no one wants to talk negatively about themselves. And what I suggest to job seekers is to kind of turn that into a positive. So for example, if I was asked that question, I would say, I tend to be very hard on myself. I don't give myself enough slack, or I tend to take on too much responsibility and have a really hard time saying no. Because the truth is, we all have things that we can work on. No one is a perfect employee. No one is a perfect candidate. It just doesn't exist. But if you're asked that question about something that could be perceived as a negative, turn it around and try to shine a positive light on that answer.
Thank you.
Hello, Melissa. My name is David. I haven't introduced myself to you.
Hello, David.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
My question for you is regarding the layoffs that we've recently seen in the IT industry, but not only. When we take on a new job or our first job, should we also be mentally prepared for a layoff?
I think that what we have learned in the past year, and really since COVID-19, and it's happening this year as well, is that no one is immune to being laid off. I know people that are senior vice presidents of companies that have been let go. I know people that have been top producers of their company and brought in a huge amount of revenue and was let go. And the reality is that when someone no longer serves their company, companies are very quick to lay people off. And so what I always suggest to job seekers, and I post about this often on LinkedIn, is to always prepare for plan A, plan B, and plan C. Always have your resume updated, always have your LinkedIn profile optimized and updated, because you never know when you're going to get that call being told that your position is no longer needed. And we always have to be able to prepare ourselves for that call. And I don't say this to be the voice of gloom and doom. I say this based on the reality of what's happening in the world today. Even in the first month of 2024, the technology sector has been hit incredibly hard. And a lot of companies in that space have laid off mass amounts of employees. And so what I see a lot on LinkedIn is people posting and saying, oh, I just got laid off. I was at the company for many years. I was a top producer. I never saw it coming. I don't even know where to begin in my job search. The best way is to prepare yourself before that layoff happens. Because again, the people sometimes that think they're the most safe are the ones that aren't. And we always have to be our own best advocate and prepare that any one of us at any given time could be laid off from our positions. It's just the reality of the world we live in today.
So what you're basically trying to say is that we shouldn't rely on our job and its stability, and even though we have been working there for 20 years or for 1 month, we should always be open to this not so advantageous decision.
Absolutely. I mean, I know people that have been at their jobs for over 20 years and have been laid off. A gentleman reached out to me recently on LinkedIn. I think it was like 2 days ago, that he was at a company for 26 years and got laid off. And he was planning on spending his entire career at this job. And when he got laid off, he didn't see it coming. He was not prepared for that conversation. And now he reaches out to me saying, I don't know what to do. I don't have a resume. I'm freaking out. Like truly, I'm very worried. I'm an older person. It's going to be a little bit harder for me to find a job. And that's why on LinkedIn, I post a lot about no one is safe and you always have to plan for A, B, and C. So keep networking. So even if you have a job and you feel you're gainfully employed and you're safe, you should always be networking. You should always have your resume updated at all times. You should always keep a list of your accomplishments that you've had so you can easily then transfer that onto your resume or your LinkedIn profile. And I can't underestimate enough, or I should say overestimate enough, the importance of LinkedIn in a job search. I actually found my current job on LinkedIn, not from a job posting, but I did some research on some companies I wanted to work for. And I reached out to the president of the company and I sent her a message on LinkedIn. And 2 weeks later, I was hired and I've been at that job for almost 3 years. So we always have to be ready because we never know when a layoff is going to happen. I know people that have been laid off from a job 6 weeks after they start, and again, 25 years after they've been employed at the organization.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think we can take bits from the recruiter mindset and implement it for daily use?
I think, and I say this from the lens of being a recruiter, is that I look at resumes all day, every day. And the resumes that always stand out to me are the ones that, first of all, look good, right? I see some resumes where there's bold and it's choppy looking and the font is not the same throughout. A messy resume isn't going to do you any favors. So it's really important that your resume not only looks aesthetically pleasing, but it clearly outlines the responsibilities of your prior jobs and your accomplishments. One thing that's super important for people to understand is that it's not enough to say, this is what I did day to day, but use quantifiable results. So in other words, I saved the organization X amount of dollars. I slashed the time to fill positions by 15 business days. Quantifiable figures is very powerful in a resume. And I would suggest that no matter what job you've had or what job you currently have, try to think of quantifiable results. Place that on your resume, place that on your LinkedIn profile, because companies want to see people that have either saved money, slashed time on processes, whatever it is in terms of what you can quantify. That is the way resumes should be written as much as possible.
And how could we, for example, take from this, what can we take from this recruiter mindset and implement it? For example, let's say I want to choose between a fruit and a donut, or I have to choose between who I'm going to befriend maybe when I go to college. Is there something, for example, since you started being a recruiter, did you notice that you tend to take decisions maybe more rationally, or you tend to overanalyze them? Is there something we could do as well to improve our life?
Are you speaking in terms of like a job seeker?
Mostly daily things, just general
Yeah, I
well-being.
would say, yeah, always keep learning and developing and growing as an individual and as a professional. So whether it's taking additional courses, whether it's getting an advanced degree, LinkedIn has incredible courses that you can take for free. It's called LinkedIn Learning. You can take courses on basically anything you can think of under the sun, but always develop yourself, always learn, always stretch yourself, because the more you do that, the better your case could be in terms of why a company would want to hire you. But again, just always just take the next step and don't be okay with the status quo. There are so many amazing tools out there right now that people can learn, develop, and grow and expand their knowledge as a professional. Take advantage of those tools. And again, most of them don't even cost a dime. Take advantage of those tools that are there, because the more you can put that on a resume, you shine a better light for yourself in the eyes of a recruiter.
Thank you. That's really interesting.
Thank you so much. My next question is, how can we, as potential employees, create a relaxed atmosphere so that we can connect better with the recruiter? And do you think that a relaxed interview is better in choosing the right employee rather than a stressful one
So
where
I'm
we don't
always,
feel like ourselves?
yeah, so I'm a big fan, and I post about this a lot on LinkedIn, is that interviewing is a two-way street. What candidates need to understand is that they're interviewing the company just as much as the company is interviewing them. And just as much as a company has the right to turn down a candidate, the candidate has the right to turn down the employer. So my take, like when I interview candidates, is I always have a relaxed setting, because people tend to be more themselves if they don't feel nervous. And what I say to candidates when I interview them is, this is a conversation. There's nothing to be nervous about. I'm getting to know you. You're getting to know me. I feel bad when candidates are nervous. And I think when you interview for a position, it's natural to be nervous, right? Interviewing is hard and interviewing can be very stressful, but the more relaxed you are, the more confident you're going to come across. And companies want to hire people that are confident, right? And always know in the back of your mind that you always have the power to walk away. If you are interviewing for a position and something doesn't feel right, you're not made to feel comfortable, you're asked questions that are out of your comfort zone, you have the power to say, I'm not interested in this company. I don't like the way I was treated during the interview process, but I'm a big believer in having a relaxed atmosphere when interviewing candidates. However, that's not the case for all recruiters. I know plenty of recruiters that don't necessarily align with my philosophy, and they make the interview session a pressure cooker. You don't get the best out of people when they're nervous. You get the best out of people when they're not.
Thank you for your answer. I also didn't introduce myself at the beginning of the session. Hi, Melissa. I'm Nectaria, but you can call me Nectary if it's easier to pronounce. I like your sweater, by the way. Okay. I want to ask you, what experience can we expect from every interview, and how can we ensure that we do our best job at
I
such a
think,
thing?
yeah, I think the way you can do your best job is, first of all, there's a couple things here, is research the company that you're interviewing with. Understand what they do, understand their values and their culture and the leadership board. So on LinkedIn, pretty much every company has a company page on LinkedIn. Every company has a website. Prior to the interview, study that company, study their products, study their competitors, have an understanding of the job and the company, and then explain that during the interview, because it shows that you did your homework. And every employer likes to see candidates that do their homework. I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed candidates throughout my career. They had no idea what the company did. They had no idea who I was because they didn't research me on LinkedIn. It's always good to be prepared for an interview, and that will allow you to be more confident in an interview as well. But there's a slew of information out there right now, whether it's LinkedIn, company website. There's no reason why any candidate should ever come to an interview without doing their homework. And it's really important at the interview that you're own best advocate, right? No one's going to be a cheerleader for you as much as you're going to be a cheerleader for yourself. An interview is the time to boast, to brag. Give the person you're meeting with a reason to want to hire you. Give them a reason to say, I have to hire Melissa Grabiner because she would be the best addition to this company and this team. That is the goal of every interview, is to do your best, have your confidence, be prepared, and pat yourself on the back over and over, because those are the types of people that employers want to hire.
How can you handle the people that can come only for the money?
Well, I mean, I think, and please tell me if I'm not answering this correctly or I'm not understanding the question, but at the end of the day, everybody works for an income, right? I would venture to say that most people, if they didn't have to work financially, they wouldn't work, right? Most people work because they need the money to survive. They need the money to support themselves and their families. But it's really important that candidates understand that there's more to a job than your salary. There's, what are the opportunities for professional growth? What are the opportunities to learn, grow, and develop in your role? And the other part of your total compensation is your benefits package, right? So it's, does the company provide medical, dental, vision benefits? Do they provide a retirement plan? Do they offer paid time off, disability insurance, so on and so forth? So what I always suggest to job seekers is, don't necessarily focus only on the salary, but what are the other things that a company is going to give you that is going to be part of your total compensation. Benefits are incredibly expensive, and healthcare is not cheap in the United States. So it's important to have a full understanding and a realistic, holistic view of what is your total compensation. So it's not only the salary, but what are the benefits the company's offering, and what are the cost of those benefits, right? So if a company's offering healthcare, but you have to pay $2,000 a month out of your paycheck, well, that's a big bite of change to pay for your benefits. So before deciding whether or not to accept an offer, have a broad understanding of not only what the benefits are, but what the cost is going to be for those company, benefits. There are some companies that don't pay, that don't charge anything for their benefits. The company pays the full cost. Well, all that money that that person would have spent on their benefits is now going back into their paycheck because there's no pay for their benefits. So it's having a broad understanding holistically of the complete offer, which is again, salary, benefits, and then what are the opportunities for professional growth for that individual.
Uh,
Okay, you
I wanted to add.
answered. Okay, say.
I wanted to add something about what you said, Melissa. I find it unreal how expensive healthcare is in the United States. Like, I've seen some bills on the internet, and some people actually most people in Romania don't earn their entire lives what it costs in Romania, what it costs in America to pay a medical bill. For example, baby's birth or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's why benefits are incredibly important. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I've worked in HR my entire career. I have a very strong, solid understanding of how benefits work and how expensive they could be. So here's an example. You have two competing offers. One offers you a salary of $50,000 a year, but your benefits are fully paid for. The other offers you $45,000 a year, but you're paying $3,000 a month out of your paycheck to pay for your benefits. You have to do a cost analysis to find out which job is actually going to give you the best income, taking into consideration if you do have to pay for some or all of your benefits.
So I wanted to ask you something about AI. Like, we know that AI is going to get more and more implemented, is going to evolve, and we're definitely going to see it more and more in our daily life. So do you think, or actually, when do you estimate that AI will actually be a tool used on a large scale for resume screening and qualification processes, maybe 1 year, 3 years, 5 years from now? And will you, for example, ever trust an AI to handle the basic or even more advanced processes on the recruiting part?
Artificial intelligence is already happening in recruiting. There are a lot of companies that use artificial intelligence to help people with their resumes, to help people with their cover letters, to help people with an application. So AI is not going anywhere. There are tools also with AI that help with resume screening, with video interviewing, with even like creating a job offer letter. So artificial intelligence is getting more advanced probably every week. And there are, again, a handful of organizations that are using the power of artificial intelligence into their recruiting processes to make them more cost effective, more streamlined, and more succinct. I think the companies that aren't using AI are going to fall behind, and those companies are not going to be competitive because there's a lot of companies that are using AI. Those are the companies that are winning the war for talent in terms of vendors that companies work with, because it makes processes efficient, effective, more streamlined, even more cost effective. But I always think that even though there are companies, for example, that will write your resume for you, like artificial intelligence wise, it's always important to never 100% rely on that, because AI isn't the end all be all. I have seen resumes that have been written by AI, which I personally would never use myself. So it's important, while AI is a tool, it shouldn't be 100% of your search, and it shouldn't be used 100% without reviewing it after you receive it back from AI. Because one thing I also see too is that some of it, like I could read a resume and I can tell right away if it was written by artificial intelligence. And then I wonder, like, how much did this person actually put into their own resume, or did they just ask AI to do it? So there has to be still a little bit of your own touch in any sort of documents you have with recruiting. You can use AI as a supplement, but I wouldn't use it as the end all be all for everything.
Okay,
Thank you.
great answer. A question related to the interview. Well, during that moment, everybody tends to talk a little bit quite much about themselves. So, what would be the perfect time? Actually, how much time should we spend talking about ourselves during the interview?
Yeah, I mean, I think interviewing, like I said earlier, is a two-way street. And the focus of any interview is for you to tell or convince the person you're meeting with why they should hire you. But I also think it's important that when you're interviewing for a position, you ask questions about the job as well. And at the end of the day, it's just the truth. People enjoy, for the most part, talking about themselves. And I actually had a conversation yesterday with a job seeker who hired me to help her with an upcoming interview. And what I said to her is I said, make sure to come into the interview, have a notepad with you, and have at least 5 questions that you ask the interviewer. It's a combination of asking about the job, but asking them about themselves. So, how long have you worked at the company? What do you enjoy about working here? What do you see as some of the challenges of the organization? Put the ball in the court of the person you're interviewing with and allow them to talk about their experience as well. Because again, interviewing should be a conversation. It shouldn't all be about the candidate. It's going to be a lot about the candidate because that's the candidate's time to try to convince someone again that they should be hired. But it's a conversation, right? And so if I was interviewing for a position, what I would absolutely do at the end of the interview is ask questions of the interviewer. And again, ask the person, tell me about you. How long have you worked here? What do you like about working here? Throw the questions back to them. And that allows the interview to be more double-sided versus just one-sided.
So you basically switch the roles.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, it's very important. And when I interview candidates and they don't ask me questions, I find that to be a red flag. Because I want the candidates to ask questions because it shows that they're interested. It shows that they care, and it shows that they're invested and engaged in the conversation.
Hi, everybody. This was only part 1 with our podcast with Melissa. If you have any questions, I'll provide a forms in the comments where you can ask them until the 19th of February. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.